Bro, can we talk? Welcome back to another episode of Bro, Can We Talk? I'm joined today by my brother-in-law, Mr. Gerard Fox. Bro, can we talk?
Yes,
My man.
let's.
So I'm excited about this conversation because you are an outspoken gentleman, a very wise gentleman, a
Thank you.
gentleman with a lot of experience in life. Let me get this out the way, give you your flowers, man. You're a great provider, protector for my sister
Thank you.
and my niece and nephew. And I'm proud of you. As I was telling you off camera, man, for the way you handle yourself as a dad, as a husband, and how you run your household. But this episode is literally all about you, this conversation, wherever you want to go. I know you have a lot to share. So wherever you want to start.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start with that. First, I want to say thank you for that compliment. I appreciate it. As we were talking about that off camera, one of the things that propels me is the way I describe it is like it's the unseen, right? That I'm operating. My brain is operating up here, and I'm not in the mundane day to day. Like I'm trying to get fly. I'm trying to impress somebody. Honestly, for me, I feel like I've accomplished most of what I want to accomplish. I have a beautiful wife, healthy, happy family, and I'm in control of most of my day-to-day decisions. Like, I mean, if I want steak tonight, I can make that happen. I maybe can't do it every night yet, lottery willing, but
Right.
for the most part, I am in the driver's seat, and I think those life experiences that I had where I wasn't in the driver's seat is what makes this so fulfilling for me. And so it allows me to operate up there, think about, look, I'm good. So what's best for everybody around me, including, but not limited to my immediate family, but my friends and family, my family, even to an extent to our wedding. When me and my wife got married in Cancun, the place that we picked, it was really nice, but we picked a place that was affordable to other people. Like not necessarily what we were like our dream wedding, but we definitely wanted to do destination and we wanted to be able to include others. So we found a place where, yeah, you could put 4 people to a room and they could bill it and split the bill.
Sure, sure.
And, you was there. It was a fantastic
It
experience.
was an event. It was a movie. Let me ask you, you made a reference to times when you weren't in control. Let's talk. Let's start there. Take us back to your childhood and what made you moving forward.
So, I'm from Washington, D.C., born and raised. I lived in the city from birth until I met your sister, really. So, like, for almost 30 years, from birth to 28. Lived in D.C., went to school in D.C., DCPS, went to college in D.C., UDC, got a job in the federal government in D.C. So, like, there was years I had no reason to, no dreams of leaving the city.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the 80s. Heroin was big, crack was big. My parents had a history of addiction. I got uncles, with alcohol addiction. So there's a whole line of addiction, both sides of the family. And when you are young, whether you're poor or money's just being mismanaged through addiction or whatever, you don't realize it. It's not until I was about a teenager that I started realizing, oh, this math ain't mathing. Just really feeling like, damn, I can do this better than they're doing it. I got out and started living by myself when I was 19. And since then, that's kind of been the way I've operated. Just how can I best manage this for me and others? Because I've already accomplished what I set out to accomplish, which is be a dad, try to be a decent one, have a happy marriage or relationship with my child's co-parent, and, again, in control of my own day to day. So those are my things that I really wanted. And with that, that's how I work every day.
What did you gain from being independent at such a young age?
I often tell a story. So at 19, I had done the first year of school, moved out, and that was kind of like the first year I realized how structured being an adult was. Because I didn't move into an apartment like I was thinking I was going to. Like I just had all the great ideas. I was like, ooh, I don't got parents. I'm gonna get Section 8 and I'm gonna get an apartment and I'm gonna be living. It's gonna be like $300. And It wasn't like that. I was able to rent a home from my family, but it was a single family home. So I had a water bill, a gas bill, an electric bill, plus rent. Later on in life, I had been living by myself for like 5 years. And some of my friends had just gotten new Cadillacs, new Bentleys, new Chargers, not Bentleys, new Benzes, Chargers. And I had bought my Civic. And my friend, she kind of pulled me to the side. She's like, "You've been working for a long time. Your friends got really nice cars. Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm straight. They not moving the way I'm moving right now. Like many of them were still living at home."
Sure.
And I'm like, "I've been paying this gas bill all winter." And I was still paying to go to school, like out of pocket. I never took out any loans. I was able to get some Pell Grants like towards the end of school. But I was going to school part-time, working full-time. So the pros were I was in charge. The cons were I was in charge and had to deal with all of the consequences. So what I learned was the buck stops with me. Like I really learned the real meaning of that. Like I didn't have any parents to fall back on and say, "Hey, mom, dad, I'm in trouble."
Because your parents were
My parents
addicts.
were recovering addicts or participating addicts. At that time, I didn't even really know, and I didn't know their current status. And I wasn't really like trying to find out because I was preoccupied with what I needed to do. I needed to finish school. I needed to make sure that I reported to work every day, 8 to 4:30. I needed to still find the time to be social and enjoy the things that I did enjoy. And just really ride that wave and keep it all afloat. There were times where I'm like 2, 3 years in the government job and I'm going to college. I'm like the only one that has to be up at 8 o'clock the next day when me and the fellas go out. And, other cats are like, "Oh yeah, I got my job in retail. I don't have to be to work till like 10." Or some people not having to be to work till like 1, right? We go out at night. We get home at 1. I got to get right back up and go to work.
How old are you at this time?
I'm like 19, 20, 21.
Compared to the people, not going to name any names, compared to the people that you're referring to having different hours than you and less responsibility, nowadays, would you say that you are further along, further ahead towards your goals than they are towards theirs?
I don't know. I mean, like, so this is 20 some odd years ago.
Right.
I think over the curve of time, most of the people that I kicked it with back then, we're in the same levels. Now,
Okay.
As far as like goals and whatnot, I mean, I think we all have goals of things that we still yet to accomplish.
Sure.
And I wouldn't say anybody's like super bad off. I just think that, did everybody take full advantage of the opportunities that we had equally together? I would say no. But, am I like leaps and bounds? I would also say no.
Okay.
I think, again, it just for what you want, right? Like if the goal is to be a dad, to be married, to have your own place, I've accomplished that. Like I check. If the goal is to be finished with school, check. I did that. To not take on any student loans, I did it that way. So I'm good on those things that were on my list. I didn't look at everybody's list per se. Some cats, like I talk to them, have deeper conversations with than others. Some cats, yeah, because what they wanted to do didn't necessarily align with what I was trying to do or with the way I needed to do it. We don't kick it as tightly, and we see them every so often and it's like, all right, man, wait, what's good? And again, to that same extent, like some of my boys, when I was up, it's like, look, man, if you need something, holler at me. Now that I'm in this position as a husband and a father of 2, I can't be like, if you need something, get at me. I can be like, hey, what do you need? I can see if I can help you.
So you and your wife, my sister, have been married for 12 years.
13.
Going on 13 in October, yeah. At one point, what's the most mortgages you guys had at the same time?
3.
Yeah.
We've maintained 3 a couple of times. So
that's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of accounting. It's a lot of organization. It can be a lot of stress when it's not running smoothly. When things, we've always had two since we met. So she had her place, I had my place. We lived together. We got a place together. Some things didn't go exactly as planned early on. So we did have to drop a place, and we didn't know we didn't know. We probably could have figured out a way to keep that place too. But again, it's just the management. A good idea in August might not hold out till November type thing.
It's a fact.
So it just really depends on the time. So it can be a stress literally in your pockets, and it can be a stressor in the house when it's like, like I said, for me, I want that control to be able to pick what I want for dinner.
Sure.
Too many of those, I don't have a choice. It's PB&J night. That's a big stressor for anybody.
It's a fact.
So the pros, like I said, were staying in the pocket, like just being like, okay, I got to get up by 6:30, getting that regimen. I was anti-military, like going to the military or whatever, because of that strict regimen. But like the life discipline that I had to get from working, I worked from 8 to 4:30 almost all my life. That's been like my time slot. I mean, I've shifted it up, I've shifted it back based on what I need to. But that's kind of my spot. When I was in school going part-time, it was 8 to 4:30, 5 o'clock classes till like 9 o'clock by those last 2 years. And going to school like 6 days a week just to finish my things. And so with that, I learned to like occupy my calendar, maximize my time, and say no to things that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also it taught me like really how much time is in a day, right? Because I was a young man, I was single in the city, I was working, driving, had my own place. I was a catch. I was a catch. And so as I'm entertaining, I could tell people, like, look, I got school and work. That's how I'm able to do what I'm doing.
Sure.
So if you can't be on this schedule with me, then we catch each other when it happens. And some people was with it, some people was not. Some people, figured it out.
So tell me about the birth of your first child. You were already more driven, more focused than the average young person. And so how old were you when you had your daughter, and how did that change you?
That's a great question. How old was I? All right. So Riley was born in 2013. Okay. Riley was born. We found out we were pregnant with Riley almost exactly a year after we got married. And then she was born later the next year. And she's like 3 weeks. Her birthday's 3 weeks before mine. So I was just about to turn 33. I was super excited about Riley, like through the moon. And, like just really enjoying that idea that I get to be a daddy. Finally, I get to like be the example, show somebody how it's done, like just all of the great parenting stuff that I thought I knew when I wasn't a parent, right? Like you're a perfect parent before you have kids.
Right.
And so really super excited about that. Your daughter, Bailey, was born like 4 months before Riley. So we kind of went through that both our wives were pregnant at the same time type thing, just a couple months behind each other.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister had her daughter a month before we had Riley. So,
right.
Like for me, it was just pregnancy, it was just happy vibes all around. Little disappointment that the other siblings were pregnant at the same time, because I was definitely planning on dropping that baby off with y'all periodically, unencumbered. But it is what it is, and more life and beautiful little bodies that we got. We had 3 girls, back to back. I was super excited.
Having a daughter, how did that change you?
It didn't at first. At first, it was just like the panic of like, can I provide? Can I keep the things that I experienced from happening to her? So with my parents being addicts, we got evicted once, and that was like life altering for me. That's like my biggest fear now. Like I'm not going to get evicted ever again, because it's weird, man. The day that I saw my stuff sitting outside, we're coming down our block, and a few houses down, I started seeing some of our stuff. But I'm like, oh wow, that's crazy. I think I got a dresser like that. More and more we get to the stuff that, you know, as a kid, you don't put your stickers on, put your little, you know, whatever, the stylos joint. And I'm seeing, I was like, wait, I got that same sticker on that. Oh, that's in the realization, that's my shit.
Yeah.
And then being told, no, you can't grab any of it. We don't have anywhere to take it. Right. Like I'm still kind of salty about them G1 Transformers with the rubber tires not being in my possession. Like that's a big thing. But, you know, going through that and experiencing that, I'm like, look, I can't have that happen to me again. And once I have my baby, I'm like, it will absolutely not happen to her. And I don't care who stands in the way of that.
To this day, does that still stick with you?
To this day. That's one of them ones where, you know, like when people put the memes out about whether or not they broke, that's where I started to be like, oh nah, like once we don't have enough to cover the mortgages, I'm broke, right? Like we can be off by $20, I'm broke. Like, you know, until I know that this is gonna be cleared, we're broke. And it took me a minute in my marriage to understand that I had a partner in that, to be like, okay, my wife can help me with this. And she would always say, look, if you need something, I can help. And I'd be like, nah, I got to make sure I'm straight. And with having a daughter, I think that's kind of just made sure that my focus stayed there. Like that I didn't get comfortable in that, okay, I got a wife. I get to do what I want to do. She can do what she want to do. We can come together and do what we want to do. And it's great. But having a daughter is like, oh, nah, back on this responsibility clock. And I really need to stay focused and locked in. Because, again, going back to my youth, prior to meeting your sister and, you know, dating her, I was easily complacent with where I was at. Like, because, again, I'm in school, I'm working, car, house. Shorty, you want to come through, stay the weekend? We can do that. Where other people were like not exactly in that position. And I was in DC. I got my pick. I mean, you got the Howards,
Chocolate City,
right? You know, you got Howard girls up there. You got GW. You got Bowie's not that far. You know, Morgan's not that far. And I had my friends that I knew from high school. I used to travel across town to go to school, so like I was familiar, just kind of bopping through neighborhoods. It wasn't a problem, more or less. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't no big deal. And I was downtown working, which as a young man, when you come of age and you start spending more time around like actual grown women, it's a different thing. Like, you know, you spend high school trying to chase after the cheerleader or whatever, but when you 22 and these 30-year-olds is walking past,
yes, sir.
You know, it's a whole different game. So,
okay.
You know, that was my experience. And again, just being comfortable in that pocket, like, okay, I can maintain this for a little bit. So, then, you know, my daughter is like, all right, I need to really focus on building and gaining and keeping.
Second child comes along, and where are you as a dad? How comfortable are you as a parent and your abilities as a parent? And how does the second child differ? Because it's super rare for two children to have the exact same attitude, disposition. Second child is usually very different than the first.
So I don't even know if I should commit this to camera, but we
out here.
We being honest. Riley, found out we were pregnant with Riley. Happiness, 100%, right? 100% anticipation. Austin was born almost 3 years after Riley. So at the time we had been trying to conceive for like 9 months. Nothing was happening. Went to fertility specialists and all that. Nothing was happening. They were like, oh, you need to do this. You need to do that. Like change your drawers, type of drawers you're wearing, all that. And while we're doing this, in DC, kids get to go to school at 3 years old. Riley's almost 3. Riley's knocking down potty training. Like I want to say by the time we found out we were pregnant, Riley was already in pull-ups. Like, you know, she was making the progress. So I'm doing the numbers, right? I'm like, yo, hold up. You're about to be out of diapers, cha-ching, out of daycare, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And when we got married and had Riley, I said, look, if we don't have a sibling, by the time we're 3, by the time she's 3, I'm not starting over again. Me and my sister are 5 years apart, but my parents were in their mid-20s when they had me. So I was like, look, I'm not doing that. That seems crazy right now.
Starting over
After 3. Like, cool. While you transitioning out of diapers, we keep those old diapers and use them for the new baby. I can do that. But once you turn 3, Riley's birthday is April 24th. April 23rd was gonna be my last deposit. like, hey, I hope this one works because I'm out.
All right.
So the news came as kind of a shock. And so honestly, happiness levels looking back, I might have been like 85. And it might have taken me a minute to get to 85 because, I was just like, yo, we was fitting to go.
Your plan.
Yeah, right. That's what it was. It was like, man, this is really messing up the money because now we were looking at possibly being in daycare or aftercare or whatever care still for 2 children, like overlapping. The long and short of it was, as a single child family, super confident in my parenting. As finding out that my wife is pregnant with the second child after I done, committed this money to some fun stuff in my head, not super there. But by the time he was born, like, that's my man, right? And I was excited when he was born. Like, I remember the day in the hospital. I remember like the day he was born. It was like an ice storm and all that. And your mom and dad came up, but they were like, yo, we got to get back home before this ice storm happens. So, it was a lot, but I remember it all vividly because one, it was my boy. And if I'm being, honest, there's a little bit of sexism there, right?
Sure.
Riley's my homie too, but he's my boy. This the heir, right? The heir apparent, the one. The happiness definitely got to 100. But, I definitely always kind of feel a little remorseful that it wasn't at 100 right away. And, some days in the back of my mind, I'm like, damn, I wonder if that had any impact on him growing up or our relationship now, right? Like when he is kind of on that pushback with me, like, man, did he feel that in the womb? Like, like was he conceived like that? Like, did he feel it? Like, I ain't worried about this because I ain't having no more.
It's possible, but at the end of the day, this is the hand that you have to play.
Yeah. So, but once he came along, it really just became the balancing act of giving him what he needs while not neglecting Riley.
Yeah.
And so with that, it's just a matter of managing everybody and still having a happy marriage, right? Like, I think that's the part that a lot of people don't think about when they're having these kids. How me and my partner going to still be me and my partner in this new capacity. Luckily for me and my wife, I'm traditional, but non-traditional. Like, I would love to be the provider and the breadwinner, but my wife is more accomplished than me, and I got no problem with that. And I'm like, look, let's make this an intelligent decision, not an emotional or societal decision. If these people gonna pay you this much more, then guess what? I'm the one on the dishes. I'm the one making the nightly dinners.
And you hold the house down. Her role has her traveling the country.
Her role has her traveling the country like once a week.
Yeah,
once almost. A week. I mean, it's probably every other week, but realistically, like, she spends a lot of time away from home, and my role is to hold it down.
Yes, sir. And you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And to figure it out, like, because it's a we unit. Like, I was the one who wanted kids. She wasn't against kids, but I was the one obviously making the deposits.
Come on.
So, like, I can't be begrudging her career because of what I wanted. That don't sound fair or right.
A lot of men don't see it that way, and kudos to you for being able to check that pride or that ego. That's definitely something that a lot of men kind of say they want. They want a high earning woman, but then they also will hold that grudge.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, bro.
Appreciate that. It's never been an ego thing with me, right? Because like I said, man, I've been humbled by life. And so why not be humble to live my best life? It's kind of my mindset. Like, let my wife go out and be like, I mean, honestly, I think I'm a pretty good looking nigga. So let me be the arm candy, right? Like, why not? Let me. We go to galas and stuff that she's part of organizations. I'm like, cool. Let me throw on my tux, my suit, whatever,
Sure.
and show up. And
So time out, bro. You just set a bar. I just can't skate past that because that might be one of the most profound things that I've ever heard you say. I've been humbled by life, so why not be humble enough to live my best life? That's a whole bar.
I mean, so like, here's the thing, right? You about 6'2"?
Somewhere like that.
I'm about 5'9". When I was in high school, I could jump. I could touch the rim. I couldn't dunk. Right. So, all right, there's the league.
Hey, man.
League's gone.
What if I told you I was 6'2" and I could touch the rim but couldn't dunk either? So
I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you still 6'2", right? So, like,
sure.
According to society, you still out here.
Yeah, but NBA point guards were like 6'8". Irvin Magic Johnson was 6'8".
Yeah, and
Anthony Hart, come on.
So what I'm saying is though, like growing up and not like I wasn't super tall.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm joking halfway. Like I think I'm pretty, but I'm not the pretty nigga. Ain't nobody ever been calling me Pretty Rico. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, life has a way of tearing all of us, right? Mm-hmm. And you got options. You can work hard, overcome. You can stick to your guns, stand on business, and just deal with all of the shit that come with that. Or you can find your groove. Find out, like, okay, where do my talents best fit me and help me? And I mean, from being evicted, living with family, and I love my family. All my families. My friend family, my extended family, in-laws. But as you know, those dynamics can get real ebbs and flows, right? Like you can everybody can be getting along perfectly.
It's a lot.
Two people can be not getting along, and it ruins it for everybody, right? Sure. So you know what I'm saying? And you wake up with your personal worldview and your place in the world, and boom, the world shows you that shit did not matter, right? Like, yeah, okay, you got up every day and you ran a 4.4. Guess what? Your knee is gone. Right. There's the leak, right? Or there's a motherfucker running a 3.4, whatever, right? The point is, you may want a thing, you may believe a thing, and it still may be denied you. So for all of that, what are the opportunities directly in front of me that I actually want? What's best in my best interest is if I have a happy wife. I'm not a prescriber of happy wife, happy life. Like, I'm not just going to say yes because my wife wanted. Like, I believe that's a path to disaster. Right. But if my wife's mental health in a place that she spends a third of her day is what's up, right? Like where she's at work, she's feeling good about what she's doing at work, what her earnings are. I've been through some stuff. I can be uncomfortable for a little bit, or a little less comfortable for her to be more comfortable. Like, again, back to that exchange. Like, if I got to take a little less for you to be better, I can do that because I'm at a point of having, and I've been at a point of grinding. So like, I know what it's like, and I can go and do that if I need to. The idea, the end goal is to not have to go grind. As long as we stay on the side of not having to grind, I'm okay. But taking a little less, that's never been my thing. I've never been a take. I've always kind of been like, nah, I'm good. I mean, even as a kid, you give me my toys in my room, you might think I've died in my room because you won't hear me because I'm in my own little zone. One of the funniest times when me and your sister were dating, me and Keisha, she's studying for law school. I had, for the first time in a long time, gone to the comic book store and got a bunch of graphic novels, which is like the individual comic books all put into like one big story. I got like 3 or 4 of them. And that was my vice when I lived alone, right? When I ain't had no responsibilities. Like, that's what I did. I go, it's been a minute because we together, we got rent at this apartment that we rent in. She's in school, so I'm trying to make sure that I have some cash flow in case there's something she needs that, her loans aren't covering. And I get my books, she's studying, And I guess like an hour or so went by, and she's like really like checking on me, like real 911 levels of concern, because she hadn't heard me.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Are you all right? Did you fall asleep or something?" I was like, "I'm just reading my books. Like I'm not going to move. I'm not going to bother. I don't have a need if I don't have a need." And one of the things I struggle with in most of my relationships is that I try to tell people, if I'm speaking up, it's because we're about to approach something that's like a non-negotiable now.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I've suppressed it as long as I could.
right. Or I'm trying to let you know where the boundaries are. Like, hey, Simba and Mufasa, don't go in that shadowy part.
Yeah.
Stay over here. And so for me, is one of the things that it took us a long time to get through in our relationship was the what's for dinner. Because my wife would say, "Oh, I'm hungry." I'm like, "All right, cool. What do you want?" "I don't know." Okay. Now, at this point, I'm a whole adult. I'll figure out what to eat wherever we go. And again, worst case scenario, I'll make 2 stops, or I PB&J it when we get back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I'm not going to starve. I already know that. That's proven.
So I saw something where it was a video of the guy. He said this is a hack for all boyfriend, girlfriends, husbands, wives. You may have seen it, where he says,
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll never guess where I'm taking you.
And she guesses.
He's like,
you got it. Right. Yeah. Nah, I'm not like that. Because I'm like, look, if you want something,
speak up.
You need to tell me what you want. And I'll give you the honest answer. I can't do that right now. Or I can do that. Or even if it's like a misunderstanding, like, hey, wait, I thought we needed to be such and such by this time. It takes us half an hour to get over there. And, because it's just things that people don't, again, as I'm managing up here, I got to manage not just right here where we're at right now, but I got to manage the rest of the hours of the day, right? You hungry now? Well, here's what we're facing. How do we find that happy middle ground? And if you just speaking up and saying, this and that. I saw a video, speaking of video, I saw a video about reparations, where somebody was like, we really need to talk about what that means collectively.
What do we want?
What do we want? Yeah. Right. And because somebody could say, okay, yeah, all right, y'all can have reparations.
$2 million.
Yeah, right. And it's like, well, wait, is that enough? Is that what we want?
Right.
I mean, kind of the whole civil rights movement. When we wanted to be in schools, now we like, well, maybe that's not exactly what we wanted, but it was a good start. It's a great start. And I don't want to go viral for saying like something bad about civil rights movement. My point is just that when you're not clear with me, you don't get what you want. And if I'm offering to give you what you want, you need to take it upon yourself to be very clear about what you're asking for, because my yes or no is going to be dependent upon what I know about myself. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It's what I know about me. I know I'm not going to be up at this time. I'm not going to be available to drive at this time. I'm not going to have the funds to cover the expected expense. So let me know what you want, and I can tell you what I can contribute to closing that gap.
What do you think it is about you that sets you apart from the way other people think?
I majored in sociology, so that was a study of group dynamics, basically, is what anthropology and sociology is, just how are people living together. What's great about it is you can experience it every day, everywhere, and you can talk about it every day, everywhere, right? Sure. I mean, that's all we're doing when we're talking about stuff. Like, people think this, people think that, oh, what they do over there, they do it. It's almost like being in the barbershop all day. Between that and my outlook, the classical educational outlook on that, and the adaptability from what I've been through. Like, there was a point in time sleeping in a bed was very uncomfortable, like too soft. I mean, there's points in times now living in the suburbs. I'm like, I wake up one morning, I'm like, oh, whoa, it's been real soft around here. Let me do some push-ups. Let me go run outside and just be black. Because you get that feeling of nah, something ain't, things are going a little too smooth. Things are a little too easy right now.
Something gotta be
off. And if it's not, I need to be prepared for if it is off, for if and when. So I think I would always say adaptability and that social examining right? Like
Yeah.
looking back and saying, okay, most people are probably going to behave like this and take this that way. Like when we go to the beach and you running because you don't have your shoes on, but you're kicking sand on everybody. They not concerned about you and your feet. They're concerned about the sand getting on them.
Sure.
So how do you like kind of de-escalate those situations, right? How do you get those situations kind of stay calm? I try to do that by explaining beforehand, saying, "Hey, look, this is what I'm not going to do. Now, if you still with it, we can rock." And I do that with everybody, the kids, the adults, whomever I'm dealing with, because I don't want there to be a problem later where you're like, where did he come from with that? Because then it feels like an explosion.
Sure.
Because you haven't been prepared. You haven't been told this is going to happen. I like to save surprises like that for roller coasters, right? Yeah, we put me on a roller coaster and I'm not sure where the drops are. That's cool. But as I'm dealing with people,
easy enough to avoid those.
Right. Yeah. And as I'm dealing with people, I can just say, hey, look, no, I'm not going to be there at 10. I'm not going to have this ready by then.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing you this. Yeah. I don't want to participate in that. Like it's so much easier to just say that up front, set that expectation. And the other thing I think about, like with me in that vein, is like I like seafood, right? So if I'm hosting a party, for example, I'm probably going to have some shrimp, right? If I can get it, I'm gonna get some shrimp, get like a shrimp platter. Now, I invite you to this party. And I'm like, yo, Damon, you gotta try the shrimp. You gotta try the shrimp. You've never told me you have a shellfish allergy. I look like an asshole because you have this shellfish allergy that you've never shared with me, and I keep trying to shove shellfish on you. But the minute you tell me you have that allergy, every time you come through, I'm gonna make sure that there's something that you can indulge in. Now again, or at least at a minimum, apologize and say, hey, my bad. I didn't know you were coming through. This is a crab boil. My bad.
Sure.
Like whatever the case may be, just to adjust with you and say, look, not like this ain't me versus you. This is just the experience we're in right now. Like you still cool with me. I'm not trying to kill you with shellfish.
Graduating with a degree in sociology, how does your view coming out of school with that knowledge of study of how people interact, how has that evolved as the world has gotten crazier, a little colder, etc.?
Well, that's the weird thing about it, man. Like when you kind of spend time looking at that, all of this has always been here. The differences between people are always kind of like put on display. The question is, are they put on display for the good or for the bad? Like, do you look at like the legend of Marco Polo, right? And he got noodles from China, tomato sauce from Italy. Now we got spaghetti, right? It's kind of more or less what the legend says. In that case, those differences were used to create something that we've all experienced. Mm-hmm. But then, like you look at the Salem witch trials, you look at, slavery, you look at Jim Crow. There's never been a time where division hasn't been, very violent, very cold, you look at even the Cold War, right? Where they were like, oh, you're a communist, or the Japanese encampments during World War II. So there's always going to be a group that is going to come in and say that other group is the worst group, and it's going to, be whatever. It's men versus women.
Oh, you can go all day.
All day. All the divisions are out there. And what I just find interesting is that if you look at it through a longer lens of time, it all comes. So like, and it's really just about who's writing and sharing the narrative. There's that whole narrative that brothers and sisters, at least in America, I've only lived in America, so I don't know other countries, but in the US, this brothers and sisters are like at war, right? And if you look at TV, especially, you'll always see like the sisters trying to snitch on the brother, or the brother's trying to get the sister caught up. And I'm like, that was never really a real thing. I never really experienced. I mean, my sister can do some Bama stuff, but like never like on site like cats and dogs, right? And trying to teach my kids that hey, it don't have to be like that. And I think now with the current trends, it's just a matter of like educating my children, informing them, and like letting them know like oh, it's okay to disagree with somebody. You know, it's really just about letting people know that opinions are going to change over time, over generations.
Yeah.
And to keep your core values throughout your household and your circles, and to avoid those circles that don't align with you.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Good stuff. In building a community that is inclusive of all men and breaking down those divisions that you just spoke about, the black versus white, the Hispanic versus the Asian, the Muslim versus the Christian versus the Buddhist versus the atheist, like gay men versus straight men. In building Bro Can We Talk, what would be a key strategy that you would employ?
Honestly, I would try to do some inclusion. Like I would actively look for people that could really create like your panel where maybe you have LGBTQ plus community member sit down on your platform. Maybe you find somebody from a different race to sit down on your platform and be part of the panel. Because the thing about it is we have so much more in common, but it always is good to speak on those individual experiences.
Yeah.
Because again, you think you know a thing,
but that's only from your perspective.
Only from your perspective. So like, I mean, you know, you've seen that meme where there's a 6 or 9 on the floor, on the ground. You can both be right. You can both be wrong. And you can be both at the same time, right? Like True. It's all perspective based, and understanding that and having people to speak on it. Like, again, I think you look at The View as a talk show. One of the things that it's created this longevity is they've got people, they don't always agree.
The diversity.
But they show up, they have the conversation, and then, you know, us as the audience, the third or fifth party, right? We get to see it and, you know, either be persuaded or reinforced. Yeah. And that's really all it is. And that's what it's always going to boil down to. You're either going to have your mind changed or have your thought reinforced that what you believe is closer to accurate. That would be my only real thing, is just try to include that. And maybe you can't get somebody, and I'm not saying like have a token. I'm just saying like try to include it. Like when you can, not, you know, if you know somebody that's willing to sit down and be a regular, then yeah, fine. It's always good to just have things. In my professional career, you know, I try to keep a mix. I'm like, I want somebody as my advisors. I always tell people, keep an HR person on staff. Mm-hmm. Know an executive assistant who's getting information, so your information person. Have a mentor that you see what they've done and you find something you want to emulate. Find them, and then find somebody that you trust to just bounce stuff off mm-hmm. of. You know, ideally not somebody that's like a knucklehead, but they're trustworthy, but you know, they so you might want to find somebody who also a second person whose career you're like, oh, I think I'd like to emulate some of that you can trust and bounce ideas off. I mean, it's not always easy.
No, but I mean, it does you no good to have the right people on your team if they're sitting in the wrong seats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When we got evicted, I might have been 10. Actually, I might have been 8 the first time. The second time, I didn't even see my stuff outside. When I started middle school, I was living with my grandparents. And over that time, from like 12 to 19, I just took from my grandfather his patience. Like, he didn't yell. I didn't agree with everything he didn't do, right? But that was my thing. Like, okay, his patience. And I'm still working off young man energy and anger and bitterness because my mom left me, right? Like, my mom was willing to go to war by my mom with my dad, right? But You know, I'm sitting there, my mom. I mean, at one point, I was telling people my mom was dead because, like, she was dead to me. And so,
been through a lot with your mom.
Yeah, a lot. With that, I took my grandfather's like patience approach to a lot of things. Like, it wasn't a lot of things he would get visibly upset about, but when he raised his voice, he only needed to raise it the one time. And they had 9 children. My father was one of 9. Wow. So if he raised his voice, yeah, heads turn, activity stopped, problem went into resolution mode at that point. That's what I took from him. You know, I have a lot of aunts in education, so I took the importance. Now I might have took it begrudgingly, but the importance of going to school and being educated and doing the right thing with that. And so just pick, you know, taking bits and pieces. You know, I had family members that was out there. Sure. That was, you know, doing their thing. And I took that, like, it don't necessarily define you. Like, you know, I mean, we, again, growing up in the 80s, we had the Stranger Danger commercials, you know, now you know half the battle, G.I. Joe type stuff. That made like street life and things of that nature look very criminal. You know, like I'm talking Scarface, like everybody was Scarface, right?
Sure.
And, you know, I remember like the first time I spoke up to my parents about what they were doing, I'm going in there, I'm like, please don't kill me. And it's like, and they kind of like, you know, just get out of here. Like, but you grow up in that and you have to figure out like what's going to get you through the day.
How were you received by your parents when you went in to tell them how you felt?
I mean, man, that was so long ago. I don't even really remember. I think I was just dismissed. Was really what it was. That's the way I remember it. I mean, again, this was 30 some odd years ago.
Do you carry that dismissal? Do you carry that into your parenting? Or would you say you'll give them a chance and actively listen to your children?
Yeah, I carry it into my parenting by actively listening. Like one of my biggest things with parenting is I don't think I've ever said to the children because I said so maybe more than 3 times in my life. And that's after like 17 continuing questions of wow. and explanations. Because like when the kids ask me why can't I sleep in? Or why can't I stay up later? Well, you have a history of not waking up at the time we need to get to school. School starts at 8. We cannot leave at 7:55 to go 10 minutes. That the math's not there.
Sure.
Well, what if I get up again? That's if you get up. If you start getting up at this time, we can go revisit. Well, what about? I'm like, hey, because I said so.
What's your outlook on society going forward for us as Black men?
I think that if we can eliminate some of the hurt that so many of us have experienced, get the trauma resolution we need, the therapy, whatever that is, and really work on like coming together, that we could do great things. So many great things from before were really lightning in a bottle. I feel like people's fear of change spreads out into everything because it's all new. And I think like even now, as everybody's gotten more comfortable with social media, comfortable with YouTube, comfortable with Twitter, now everybody's afraid of AI.
Sure.
And you see people moving differently on those social media platforms. And it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. We need to have more Black men specifically coming together, figuring out what's best for us. Like, look at us. And some of that may involve disappearing, like for a little bit, for some of our bigger names and more accomplished people who are currently making their money by being seen, by being visible. Mm-hmm. May need to do like a little, Fortress of Solitude type retreat with others and come back out and be like, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we worked on.
I love that.
But
I love that.
I mean, again, I can't make you disappear like that to go do the work. Sure. And people have to come to that. Sure. Either have to come naturally or, you need another big political movement to push you in that direction. I mean, and that's,
I think another thing you just said, a key word is work, and a lot of us men, in particular, not just black men, but men in general. There's only but so much work that we're with, so much effort that we're willing to put into any one thing. And if it wasn't our idea, then we're only willing to come to the table with so much effort that we're willing to invest into it.
Yeah, I agree. I think people in general, right?
Yeah.
You know, people talk about good and bad people. I don't think anybody's good or bad. I think that people are situationally decision based. So what I mean by that is like,
Yeah,
if
depends
you
on what the situation is.
depends on what the situation is and how far do I have to stretch
Yep.
to help you. So like, you are a block away and fall out. That's not too bad. I can walk a block, go check your pulse, right? I get there and you got a hole and you bleeding out. Now I got to call 911. I got to stay with you. It's hot. There's people that's like, oh, I see the blood from here. I'm not going down there. Somebody else can. Somebody else with time can handle that. Somebody else that doesn't have 2 children and a wife can check on him. I hope he got his phone on him, right? Like, and in that moral situation, we commonly call those people bad people. Like, you saw somebody in need, you should have helped them, is what we want to say. But again, that situation, you never know what that other person's situation is and why they couldn't or didn't or wouldn't. So, you know, like I said, I don't think people are good or bad. I just think that it's based on the situation and how far they got to stretch. And so with that work piece, it's the same thing. Like, you know, like I talked to you about, like, if I'm operating everything from this perspective, sometimes I just don't have the bandwidth to come down micromanage, right? Sometimes the impact is not going to be as impactful as you think it is at the micro level to the macro. Because, you know, I'm like, cool, I can deal with that. I can come back and deal with that after I handle the real emergency, which you can't see it because you're on this little emergency. And I deal with that a lot with the children because, again, like, they think I'm just not letting them stay up later.
Sure.
I'm like, nah, bro, you staying up half an hour later creates us an hour late in the morning.
Yeah.
That's not going to fly.
Yeah.
Now,
children definitely can't see the macro.
They can't. They won't until they get into a better position. So it's really like important that people talk to people with experience to see how things could be and what's really happening out here in the world.
Right on, brother. Well, we have a tradition here, Bro Can We Talk, Gerard, where the previous guest leaves a question for you without knowing who you are, and you'll have a question for the next guest as well. So the question for you is, what was it that you went through that was your defining moment that made you who you are today? And I know that the cop out is to say it's a culmination of all the experiences. What was that one defining moment?
Maybe who I am today. That's a good question, and especially without the caveat of a culmination, because I think that you ebb and flow too as a human being growing. As you vibrate higher and higher and learn more, you figure it out. But I think the moment that made me who I am today was probably the eviction. That's probably the most dominant like thing that set on me. Experiencing that just really let me know so many truths about life, right? Like nothing is set in stone, right? People around you can love you and still not do right by you. People can be flawed and still be, as far as be great. And horrible things can be happening around you that that you don't even notice, and B, don't affect anybody but you.
That's real. That's so good.
So I think that's the thing, because again, it was really weird seeing my stuff. Like, that looked familiar.
Yeah,
that does too. Oh,
like you said, it still sits with you a little bit today.
Yeah.
What would be your question going forward for the next guest? What do you want to hear somebody else's perspective of?
So I have this saying that I say, you know, a lot to people is when they're like, you know, how's your day going? Like, I'm doing my best to be my best. And so my question would be, how are you doing your best to be your best? And what does it mean to you?
I appreciate this time, bro.
I appreciate it too,
I
man.
appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate your candor,
Thank you.
and I appreciate you being someone that leads your family, is leading, helping to lead our family, as we are the next generation of fathers. And so I just want to thank you again for sitting down with me, man. I'm sure our audience thanks you as well.
Appreciate it.
Until the next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep the conversations going. Bro, can we talk?